Welcome to Master Learn, and here we are going to cover the breath, the importance of the breath. So we have three major necessities that sustain and cultivate our life force. The first, food, next, water, and then the breath. We can go several days to a couple of weeks to perhaps a couple of months without food. There are people who are known to have trained their bodies to sustain without material or physical food, and some of them may be called breatharians. There's also another term for that, which is PIGU, P-I-G-U, you can research. And then you have water, which our bodies are comprised mostly of water on the inside. So we may be able to last a few days without water, but then there is a limitation. And then if we think about the breath, we can go perhaps a few minutes without breathing before we begin to experience brain damage and some of the irreversible effects of the lack of oxygen, particularly to the brain. So we can see on the scale of importance of what sustains our life and cultivates, it would be the breath as the most important. So here we want to cover the reasons why and how to control the breath. Controlling the breath, if we know that breathing has this immediate impact on the movement of our vital life force, or the chi of the prana, or the ra force. If we know this, then gaining control over the breath would then be able to control this life force. It also is related to our states. And by states, I mean mental, emotional states. If you self-examine for a moment and think about the times when you may have felt nervousness or anxiety or fear or frightened or shocked, something startled you. If you self-examine, you would realize that your breath was predominantly in the chest area or the lung capacity or lung area. If you examine the times when you have been most relaxed and composed, in balance or integrated, your most powerful, most confident, your most elevated self state, you were more likely than not breathing from the lower abdomen. And so while we won't cover all of that detail in this particular slide deck, we will in the future. But it's important to know that the different states of being have correspondences to different breathing patterns and the chambers in the body. Knowing this, we then can say we can reverse engineer a state if we so choose to, if we are skilled. Meaning, if you are feeling fear, if you are feeling anxious, if you are feeling nervous, you can change that state into composure and calm and back in control by shifting the breath pattern from the lung area to the lower abdomen and vice versa. 3 methods to control breathing. One is being able to count. Counting down or counting up. And all this means is choose a amount of seconds. You can choose 3 seconds. You can choose 5 seconds. And as you practice breathing, you want to use the abdominal breathing, which we'll talk about in that third bullet. You want to use the abdominal, the lower abdomen, or the 3 inches or so below the navel. In other terms, this is called the hara, or it's called the dantian, or the lower dantian. It is also considered in fitness, Western fitness, it's considered the core, or the space of stability. You want to concentrate the breath down there, and as you inhale, you count. So you inhale through the nose preferably, as you are working on retraining or retooling your body vessel to breathe a certain way. You inhale from the lower abdomen, and then you count 3 seconds, 5 seconds. And then as you exhale, you then count your 3 seconds or 5 seconds. So you can go from 1 to 5, or you can go from 5 to 1, or 3 to 1, or 1 to 3. It's up to you. The point is you want to have a counter, and the counter acts as a subtle modulation. The next is breath suspension. So breath suspension literally means holding your breath or suspending the breath. Another piece of awareness to have is the pausing of the breath. Suspension of the breath corresponds to suspension of thinking. If you have racy thoughts, if you have trouble sleeping because you're up at night thinking, your mind is what they would be calling the monkey mind. It is outside of the bounds of your direct influence in a way. You can practice breath suspension. So as you hold the breath, you will actually sit your consciousness in the middle, in between the thinking. You can combine this with counting down or counting up. So as you count up, let's say it's 3 seconds, you can go up, inhale, 1, 2, 3, pause the breath there, and then you can exhale, 1, 2, 3, and then pause the breath. Doing this for a particular amount of time or amount of cycles will help to relax you, but it also takes your mind off of whatever it is you were initially thinking about, and it puts you more into the present moment as well as a trance state. The last is regaining abdominal breathing. Now, this breathing pattern that I've been mentioning in the Dantian used to be the common way or the more natural way of breathing when we were younger babies. And over time, we, for whatever reason, developed the habit of breathing from the chest or the lung area. Now, breathing in the chest or lung area, it is not about right or wrong, but it is about the most optimal way on a daily basis. We use the lung and chest breathing for particular meditation technologies, but if we know that states of anxiety and fear and being frightened, a number of these lower vibrations, these states, if we know these states tend to manifest with the breathing up there, then what do you think is happening if we are breathing up there on a normal basis? We are actually, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, we are inducing certain stress states just by creating a breathing pattern. So to regain the abdominal is to give attention back to returning to breathing from the lower abdomen, where the state or seats of power exist. And then that starts to become a dominant state. So 3 methods here: count down, count up, breath suspension, regain, revisit the abdominal breathing, and these methods will help you to control the breath. Now, you may experience a number of subtle benefits to this. There are so many that I could discuss, but one of them I will say will be increased concentration, it will be increased focus, and then ultimately at the foundation of all of this is a type of peace of mind that is independent of an external circumstance. If you've not experienced this before, it may be a bit challenging to conceptualize, because we are taught to assume that the external world is something that impacts us and that we are to simply respond to the environment. But as you develop deeper awareness of these practices in your own states, you realize you have a lot more power than you think to manifest and express yourself in a given environment. So this peace of mind, this peace power, this hotep, which it is called in some ways. It is also called the salam, the peace, right? There are a number of terms for this. The amen, this particular type of contentment or powerful peace state begins to solidify within you. And at that point, your system internally is stabilized. As your system is stabilized, meaning all of your organs, your blood, all of your systems inside begin to do what they are designed to do without toxic or negative interference. In that state, your life force is able to flow in a proper integrated way, which leads to other effects like health, better health and more energy and focus and such. So 3 here, concentrate on the count down, count up, breath suspension, maintaining, regaining, or revisiting your abdominal breathing, and reintroduce yourself to the seat of your power. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me by email or visit Masterlearn and my blog, Crown of Mind. Be well.